Our next speaker is the state entomologist and state bee inspector for Ohio. And this is that connection that Dorothy was talking about earlier between government and you and us, and how we need to work together to be more successful in our state and with working with other states and what have you. So Barb Fletcher does that. And Maggie was talking about having to drive 2 hours. I think Barb, I'll let her tell you. Anyway, Barb Fletcher.
I'm Barb Fletcher, and I'm glad to be here today. I'm glad to see so many people, and hope that you're enjoying this as much as I am, because I'm really learning a lot. So yeah, so I hope that I hope you find hope you learn from this and enjoy it. I don't have this amazing journey that some of you have pretty humble beginnings as well. I was a nerd from little kid on. I was fascinated by insects. As a little kid, I spent hours up in Grayling, Michigan, lying on the ground, giving them crumbs of food to see what crumbs they picked up and which ones they would pass to get another crumb of something else. So I've been a bug nerd from an early age. I used to raise caterpillars and release them. I think I was in like 4th grade. I had 3 female Promethea moths flying around in our screened-in porch, and our neighbors called an alarm because there was males flying around and around trying to get into our screened-in porch. So of course I opened the door and let them in. I had scraped all the eggs off of the screen and take them outside for the plants. So I had an interesting life as a kid. Joined Ohio Lepidopterist when I was in high school and have been active in that ever since. I went to OSU, and got my degree in entomology. And I wanted to be a beekeeper as a kid, but we lived in town. And little did I know, my mom hated insects. I don't know how she kept it from me all those years, but she was terrified of insects. She kept it to herself. So I had a job in bugs, of course. I got a job with it's a nursery here in Columbus, or down there in Columbus. I was actually there for 25 years. Houseplant head, outdoor nurseryman, manager for a while. So I did learn how to make bows. I did everything plants, but I learned all the plants and perennials. I landscaped for people. This one lady, she was a big Buckeye fan. She wanted scarlet and gray landscape. So I would only pick plants that Frank's, the nursery sold, just to give them the business. So I had to pick all the plants that were either scarlet or gray to fit into her landscape. So that was interesting. So I just kept getting more and more involved with plants and insects and different things that I could do. I was a pest control operator for a local company. I was a hose jockey. Got to go out and spray because I was petite back then compared to all the big guys. I did all the crawl spaces. I got the calls for wasps and hornets and all that. I've never liked heights. And to climb a ladder to kill a yellow jacket nest made me a nervous wreck, but I did it because the big guys didn't, and they had a lot more say than I did. So yeah, I got to learn a lot. I learned about insect habits, how to manage different insect pests, and I learned a lot from the other people, the other entomologists there, and just that whole business. And you're working, face to face with homeowners who know nothing about insects. I had one lady who wanted me to spray her sidewalks because she had ants on her sidewalks. So you learn how little people understand about insects, and how much we, as maybe not fans of insects, but on the other side, have to educate people to understand that insects do have a place. They do have their niche, and we can get along and manage them. So then I went on to Ohio State, and I was a diagnostician, which means people would send us plants and things damaged by insects, and we would diagnose it. So I got, craft items, things from Guam and Afghanistan that were illegally imported, craft items that were full of borers, and plants and to identify and plants damaged by insects. We got everything, and so I learned a lot. I learned by fire, trying to figure out what caused this damage and how the homeowner or business can control it. So I did that for about 31 years. So yeah, some of these overlapped. I worked at the nursery at the same time I worked at Ohio State just because I needed to make money. And so 2009, big change for me in a lot of ways. I got to work. I was hired as the state entomologist and apiarist at Ohio Department of Agriculture. At first, I was part-time, so I was still doing the diagnosis for Ohio State's lab and doing all this apiary stuff half-time. It just didn't work. I couldn't do it. I couldn't develop a program for ODA. A little background with ODA. So back in the good old days, there were 7 men that ran the Ohio's apiary program. There was, I just forgot what his name was. It's gone. Gordon Rutherford. Yeah, thank you. And then there were 5 men under him. And so little by little through attrition, the funding went away and the men retired. Andy Cartel was right before me. John Grafton, which some of you know, he and Andy kind of split the state. So John did the north half and Andy did the south half. John retired, then Andy retired, and now I'm doing it for the whole state. But I can't do what they did. So that's the difference. I can't begin to do and cover the state like they did. But I'm doing my best. So I'm the entomologist because we're still getting insect samples in. Ohio State's lab kind of shut down, so we get some of those samples as well. We have nursery inspections. So the director was talking about Ohio Department of Ag being regulatory. So anybody who raises Christmas trees, catfish, animals, nurseries, they all have to be inspected because we're trying to stop the spread of pests. Emerald ash borer is a good example. And it's the same thing with honeybees. We have a registration program for apiaries because honeybees are just little disease farmers, little flying disease carriers and mite carriers. So that's why we register. We used to, back in the 20s, most of the states had a very high level of American foulbrood to the point that 2/3 of all the colonies in Ohio were dead or dying from American foulbrood. So that's when they initiated the county bee inspection program. That was the end of the 20s. Within 10 years, the population or the incidence of American foulbrood dropped 10%. Another 10 years later, it was down to 20% or 10%. Now it's 0.01%. So just having eyes and ears out there, trying to look and see what's going on in the state really helps. I know Massachusetts did the study several years ago. New York has done that study showing that if you have an inspection program, you've got extra eyes, you can keep these diseases and pest levels down to at least a dull roar. So that's what I do, and trying to keep an eye on what's going on, try to educate people to keep their bees alive so that they have a good experience. So I identified the insects. That's where I was going with that for all the inspection services that go on, including the honeybees. So Ohio is different from some of the other states in here. We have a county inspection program. So each county appoints and pays their county inspector. We have 88 counties, about 73 have a county inspector. We have 55 inspectors because some overlap. So yeah, their job is to go out and inspect the apiaries in their county and look for pest diseases. So I kind of oversee that program. We teach, we're out there teaching, giving talks, trying to get beekeepers to comply with the laws, make sure that they register, make sure that they're, keeping their bees healthy. It's a whole series of things that we do, trying to help these bees stay healthy. If we don't have good, healthy bees, we're not going to have good, good yield of our crops. So it's vitally important. I give a lot of presentations, go to field days, etc. And then we have bee kill investigations. People think that their colonies were killed or affected by by a pesticide spray. So I go out and help the pesticide investigators with that. So I do a lot of different kinds of things. Well, I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the people along the way that have taught me and encouraged me. And one of the big ones is Dr. Shetler. He was my boss at Ohio State. The guy knows everything. I skipped my poor family. Sorry, Mom and Dad. My family, of course, because they did encourage me to, pursue what I wanted to do. And my mom emptied lunch boxes with bugs in it quite a few times. Grayling, Michigan, that's where my heart belongs. It's nothing but white, jack pines and just peace and quiet. Beautiful up in northern Michigan. So we spent our most of our summers up there. About 5 generations of Bletchers lived up there. So then I'll move on to Dr. Shetler. So he is the turf grass ornamental entomologist at Ohio State. He's retired, but he still works there. Typical professor, they retired and they keep working. He knows everything. He identifies plants. He knows what insect ate the plant based on what the plant is. He can identify the plant and the insect that did it. He knows what pests eat, violins and stored food. He has done a lot of work with forensic entomology, so he knows a lot. And because he wants to teach, he wants to learn, wants to encourage people to learn. He is a great mentor for many people. Had a lot of grad students go through there. So he was an amazing, still is, amazing person to know, contact for information. The diagnostic lab is a team of us. We had a plant pathologist, we had another horticulturist, various people in charge, and grad students that would help us. That was a tremendous experience because you're learning as you go. You get your feet wet. You never know what's going to come into that lab, and you have to figure it out. So that was very helpful for me. Cliff Monahan, who's over in veterinary science, he taught me all the bugs that get in the animals, the veterinary pests. So I learned a lot from him as well. These are really the beekeepers that have influenced me. Starting with Florence Bethard. She's the one that got me started. She was born back in 1902. She wanted to get involved in World War II, so she got a pilot's license and flew up to the front to go up the front line. Sorry. I practiced this talk so many times and never got choked up. But she taught scouts in schools. She got a lot of people. So Carleton, he was very helpful for me when I first got started being a state apiarist. We had some problems with some beekeepers who were kind of bucking the system and trying to fight the whole apiary program. So Carleton has been a quadriplegic for probably 30 some years. Raised 2 good kids, both involved in beekeeping. They were involved in beekeeping when they were 5 years old and beyond. And he taught me to have broad shoulders. He's a quadriplegic. He's running a bee supply company and raised these 2 kids, he and his wife. And Barb is sitting in a wheelchair. Got to develop broad shoulders. And he stayed with that. He stayed tough. He just passed away this last year. But smart guy, well educated. he could give you all kinds of advice on different topics. He read all the time and always stayed very well educated and in touch with what was going on. Dr. Tu is back there. He was one of my first, as far as getting a formal education and helping us understand beekeeping. We took a few of his classes. He was doing some videos at that time. So he was very helpful with that as well. Barry Conrad was involved with Ohio State Beekeepers and Central Ohio Beekeepers, which is my club. He was such an energetic guy, full of energy. He loved to teach. He ran a beekeeping supply company as well. He kept our beekeeping club going. Lots of energy. He loved to teach. Our beekeeping picnics were held out at their farm. So obviously Carmen is still with us. Barry passed away actually a year ago today. So we miss him a great deal. So all these people are very helpful. You all have people like that who kept you going and kept you educated. So Fred Budell, I think he's probably 80 something years old. Guy is amazing. He worked, dawn to dusk. He's still going strong. Obviously he's aged quite a bit since I first met him. But he's always hiring kids. These kids would steal him blind. They were cheated on him, and he would bail them out every time. He loved to teach. So he started keeping bees when he was 8. He ordered a package of bees from Sears Roebuck catalog and has kept bees. In his prime, he was about 1,200 colonies, and he did it by himself. So he would hire kids, and he was in a very poor area. He would hire these kids and teach them everything he could. He developed his own cooler that was maintained with a thermostat to keep his equipment cool, so they'd get bugs. He told me, when he was like 10, his colonies had American fog. He figured out himself. He had to burn them all. He started all over again. Just an incredible guy. He wrote like a 20-page paper, handwritten, but all his observations about honeybees and what they pollinate, what time, what they favor over another plant. Gave me a copy of that. Just incredible. Always think one of his lessons is don't just plop your bees down and assume that your bees are going to find food, because there's so many differences in pH and moisture, the soil, what's available. You may think your bees have all kinds of stuff when they really don't. He said, go out in the morning, look at what they're going to, look at what they're visiting, and make sure that they have enough pollen and nectar and you don't have too many colonies from the area. So a lot of information from this guy. He's still teaching today. I took that picture this spring. He's still teaching. So he was very interested in hygienic bees. I know some of you have probably bought his nukes. He would, he's out in the middle of nowhere, out in God's country. He would damage a circle of brood. Like he'd use instantly freeze them, or he'd scrape them, and he'd look to see how quickly the nurse bees would pull out those dead pupae, and he would only breed from them. And his bees were so incredibly gentle. He would be out there, bare chested with his guys, and they were all, not me, but the rest of them, they'd be all bare chested, hot day, working the bees, and I never got stung by his bees. Very gentle, very hygienic, really strong bees. And if you buy his nukes, you better put them in a full-size hive within a week, and they would be up in the trees. Just excellent bees. Dwight Wilson, a buddy of mine up in northwest Ohio, he loves the wetlands. He likes to preserve. He's mentored. I asked him how many people he has gotten into beekeeping. He can't even count. He's still mentoring today. He's still teaching. Wants people to understand the joy of beekeeping. Beekeeping is fun. Beekeeping should be fun. We don't want to be working bees that are stinging us and we're afraid to get into them. So your bees should be gentle. You should know how to take care of them so that it's fun for you, and teach the kids. You know, we need to keep teaching more people how to keep bees and keep them correctly so that they survive. So just a great personality. So most of us are beekeepers, probably all of us. Almost all of beekeepers I know have bad backs because we're lifting all the time. And he taught me a couple years ago, he said, one, when you're opening those boxes, first crack that box open, put some smoke in there so the bees are going to go down in versus coming right at your face. So crack the boxes, put some smoke in there, and you're going to have fewer bees flying in your face. But even more important is use your stomach muscles. Don't use your back. Because I don't have a great back either. If you concentrate on using your stomach muscles to pick these boxes up and put them back down, put them back on, your back doesn't hurt at the end of the day. So, I mean, that's kind of an odd thing to teach somebody, but I remember to do that, and it does. Your back doesn't hurt if you use your stomach. County apiary inspectors, so I've talked about them already, but it is a really busy slide, and this is only a few, small percentage of county inspectors. But these folks, they work so hard. They're tireless. They're dedicated. They put their heart and soul into it. They work long after it because they're not paid well. I mean, every county pays differently, but we have a couple of counties that pay $1,000, so they'll have a couple hundred apiaries. You can't do anything for $1,000, and they'll keep doing it long after they've expended their appropriation. They're still out inspecting. So you just have to. They're doing it because they want to help. They want to teach beekeeping. They want to have healthy colonies in their particular county. But more than anything, we want beekeepers to have a good experience and succeed. That's the name of the game. Gentleman down here where I'm wearing a pink scarf, Everett Holmes. So people would complain to me that he didn't do anything. He would go out there, and he was 80 something when we took that picture. He was using a walker. He said, well, I guess I'm finally going to have to retire from bee inspections. I have to use a walker now. He received a certificate for inspecting for 50 years for 2 counties. So I went out because I was young and I just gotten the job, and people were complaining that he doesn't do anything. So I wanted to find out. So what he did, because he was already 70 something, he went with the beekeeper, and he had the beekeeper do the lifting. And he would tell him, what's going on. He'd pull out a frame. He let the beekeeper do the heavy work, and that's how he could. So yeah, he very much was doing his job. The people who complained were usually the ones that didn't want him to look at their bees. This guy over here, right hand side, the guy over here in the lower right hand corner, that was a living colony on top of that car. So apparently it must have been a swarm in the tree above, so they just put the hive there and knocked the bees in. I couldn't even reach it. So I didn't expect a colony like that. So we see all kinds of stuff. And again, they have a lot of years of experience. Most of them, you don't even recommend a beekeeper to be an inspector unless they've had at least 5 years. And you can look to see, do they only have 2 hives after 5 years of beekeeping, or have they built up to 50 hives? So we interview them too to make sure they have an idea what they're doing. And again, we have all kinds of experiences. This guy up here, he had to put everything in a plastic bag and carry it across the creek because the creek had overflowed its banks to get to the colonies. This picture in the middle, there was a dead skunk that had been stuck in a leg hole trap, and the beekeeper had just left it there. So here the inspector comes, and there's a dead skunk, very, not much left of it. Over here, these are supposed to be colonies of bees, but look more like a junkyard than anything else. So lessons, some of these lessons learned from the inspectors is be prepared for anything, because you never know, and this is true for beekeepers as well as bee inspectors. You never know what you're going to encounter when you get to your bee yard. So be ready, be prepared, make sure that you pack extra stuff. There's all kinds of ways of keeping bees. And, I'm not here to tell people right from wrong. As long as the bees are healthy and they're respectable, I like to learn too. And this is a great job to learn because we see all kinds of stuff out there. Who's to say what's right, what's wrong? But you have to be patient and you have to have an open mind and see, okay, we're experimenting, we're trying something new. You just never know. Make sure that you have extra tools. You break your hive tool, your dog, takes your smoker away from you and bites through the puffer part. You never know. More important is we teach beekeepers why you do something. You can't tell a beekeeper, don't do that because of whatever. You have to explain why you do it. You put another box on because the bees need more room. Queen is, honey bound. There's no place to lay eggs. You can't just write on inspection form, you need to add more boxes. You have to explain why. You can't assume that beekeepers know why they're doing anything. They learned it in class, so then they do it, but the timing may be off. Lots of things can, be going on in their head. They may have seen something on YouTube that worked in Kentucky, but it didn't work here in Ohio. Some days are just really bad, and sometimes you think, I probably should just give it up for the day because everything is going down. My mood is bad, and I should probably just quit because it's just going to get worse. 80% of inspecting is teaching. We're not Barney Fife. We're not the bee police. There are times that we have to be a bee police. But in general, we're here, inspectors are here to teach and to explain beekeepers how they can keep their bees better. So yeah, it's 80% teaching and about 50% pure sweat, lifting, and getting stung. And then COVID changed everything. People were home, which is nice. You could teach more. But also people were on guard. They don't want people in their backyards. So it's been difficult. You can't just walk up and give somebody a hug. You have to ask. So very, very different all the way around. And I learned from you. I learned from everybody here. I learn from beekeepers every day. I get texts. I have 2 phones. I have 2 emails. People are calling me, texting me. I'm getting message, and they yell at me because I didn't answer their message. I get all kinds of comments from all kinds of beekeepers. Inspectors are sending me messages. But, I'm constantly learning, and I'm trying to be as best as I possibly can. So, yeah, I am learning from you. I'm learning from Reed Johnson, who's our OSU apiarist. We've had a pretty decent relationship going back. I try to help him with his projects, and he helps me from time to time. Kim's back here in the back. I've learned quite a bit from him and Dr. Tu, and this guy over here, Jerry, learned from him. Upper right-hand corner, that's Apiary Inspectors, and I cut it off a little bit. But the Apiary Inspectors of America have just been a huge resource for me. So Tammy has been a member, and Kim was our president during COVID, and he kept us going. He kept us strong. You've given us more visibility than we've ever had. So thank you. We've got committees, and we're actually getting stuff done. Tammy runs our newsletter, so AIA has been a huge supportive resource. We have a lot of speakers, so that's been very helpful as well. I constantly, trying to take lessons and such webinars from other people. Honeybee Health Coalition, they have a ton of information on their website. They have, best management practices for beekeepers in almonds and corn, soybean. They have the tools for varroa mite that we're all hopefully familiar with. Links to websites, just a huge wealth of information. So that information is out there for us. We just have to find it. Fellow beekeepers, and of course we're all learning from honeybees. Every year, colonies are different, doing different things. Some of the things that we encounter, ants. Sometimes the ants are worse than the bees. I get bitten by the ants and not by the bees. We have people who have unusual ways of stacking hive boxes. Lots of dead colonies. We do a lot of just trying to figure out why colonies died. Peggy, I shouldn't pick her out, but she actually had these clear ticks in her hive. There's a whole story behind it, but we got OSU involved, we got the USDA involved because they were clear. They turned out to be brown dog ticks. But why they're in her colonies, we never did figure that out. It was brown dog ticks, but they were clear. Well, I think they were never exposed to light, so their exoskeleton never hardened. Looking down, you look down at a stack of bee boxes, and there's a whole family of possums. Or you got your poison ivy hives. Those are lovely when you go to a bee yard and there's poison ivy growing everywhere. So we learn as we go. You keep an open mind. You never know what you're going to find, but you're going to meet a lot of great beekeepers. And that's the best part of being an inspector is beekeepers are a great group of people. You want to protect yourself. We had a bee inspector who was bitten by a hog. He was knocked down, so we went through a series of gates. He went back through after he was finished, he closed the gate, he turned around, there's a full-size hog staring at him. Knocked him down, bit him on his leg, and he had 15 stitches. He was using his hive tool to kind of beat the hog off. So you just have to be really alert. You never know what you might run into. We do have to follow procedures. We run into some serious diseases, American foulbrood. We have to have a protocol that we follow because if we don't, do everything exactly right, then we don't have evidence. So at times, when this is needed, we need to make sure that, I took the right samples, I labeled them, I did everything correctly so that, we can proceed from there. And be professional. You have to stay professional. You have to assume, we're representing the state, we're the county. We have to make sure that we are giving them the right idea of, what we're trying to do, our overall purpose. So, just a light touch on commercial beekeepers, because we have a lot of commercial beekeepers. I know you were asking about that. Up in northwest Ohio, it's very flat. There's a lot of agriculture up there. I think our largest, 5,000 colonies. Usually it's about 3,600 to 4,000 colonies. We have several large, big-time commercial beekeepers up there. They're in their colonies, every week. May not be the owner, but it's going to be an employee of his to make sure that they know what's going on, so they can solve that problem, before that problem gets worse. They have to maintain a profit. Each colony is worth $200 or more, so they have to do what they need to do. They need to keep, on top of these colonies to make a profit. So these are full-time commercial beekeepers. So they've got multiple yards. This gentleman I was with just this week, he has 30, 40 yards in different counties. So he has to keep track of what's going on, which one needs to be fed, which one needs this and that. Depending on what they're treating, sometimes they're in the yards once a week to treat. So they have to have really good records. They pay attention to where they put their bees. They have it all out on Google Maps to make sure that these yards are going to have plenty of food, so they are not spending more money to supplement their feeding. It's not the individual yard. They're not going to baby one colony if that queen isn't doing well. It's done because they need that whole yard. They need to make money from that yard. That yard's going to get moved down to California or wherever. So it's not the individual colonies that they're going to worry about. It's maintaining that colony, that yard, and making sure that the yard as a whole is healthy. They're connected to other commercial beekeepers, the national associations. They need to know what the price of honey is and the value, where they need to get syrup. It's all dollars and cents to them. So commercial beekeeping is production agriculture. It's not keeping bees as a hobby. It's commercial agriculture. It's a serious business that they take very seriously. So they need to know where they're going to put their yards. If they're going to move them to, blueberries or California or wherever, or they're going to put them in a, you know, overwintering like a potato bin or something. They need to know where they're going to go, when they're going to go. They need to know when these crops are going to be blooming. They need to work with the grower to know that, when they're going to be treating whatever pesticide, insecticide, or fungicide, or whatever. They need to be able to be logistically taking care of all that stuff. They need to know what's going on. They should have a pollination contract. I think a lot of them don't. It's more of an understanding, but they need to have an idea of what's going on all the time. They need to have contacts to get their bees shipped from here to there. It's incredibly expensive for the insurance to ship these bees around. And then, heaven forbid, they get stopped at the border or something else. They have to be on top of all that stuff. Each state has a different certification program. So the state bee inspectors, we talk to each other. They have to do the same thing. They have to know what they need to have to move into, Massachusetts or Kentucky or California. They need to know. California, you can't have any weeds, no dirt, no seeds, no ants on your pallets. That's completely clean. So they have to know all this information, and they're paid by the frame. It's not, the colony that they're being paid for. It's a frame of healthy bees. So they have to, know that too. Just like, a colony of bees, it's all the bees in the colony. It's not just one bee that makes a colony. It's the whole colony. So they're paid by the number of healthy frames of brood. So they have to keep these colonies super strong. And then, of course, they're going to be shipping around, so there's a lot of stress on those bees. And the inspector, the beekeeper, has just breath. His comment at the end of the day, because they have all these different problems, every year has different problems requiring different solutions, different management techniques. It's never the same. As you know, it's never the same. Every colony is different. Every colony has different needs. And imagine trying to manage 5,000 colonies, and they're all different. And not to mention the queens that you have to stay on top of. You have to be ordering new queens all the time. So just a lot of work. Hobby beekeeping is a little bit different. I have to make some huge generalizations. Because a hobby beekeeper can have 2 hives in their backyard. They can be a sideliner that has, 50 to 60 or more. So it's very difficult to make these kinds of generalizations. But 70% of the beekeepers in Ohio have 5 hives or less. Most of our beekeepers have 5 hives or less, and they live in town. So we have, 50-some thousand colonies of bees, but a lot of these beekeepers have 5 hives in their backyard. So that's why Columbus and Cleveland have so many beekeepers, but not necessarily that many colonies. In this final picture, the browner the circle, the more brown it is, the more apiaries there are. The larger the circle, the more colonies there are. So you can see that the brown, the number of apiaries, is all those major cities. It's Cleveland, Columbus, Cincinnati, kind of running down diagonal. But the big apiaries, the most colonies are up in these upper corners, northwest corner. So yeah, most of us hobby beekeepers have 5 hives or less. Sideliners are going to have 20 to maybe 100 colonies. But I try to kind of lump them together based on what I see, how they manage their bees. Their care and maintenance really varies on their full-time job and their family. They are not going to put their life into the bees the way that I see commercial beekeepers. Some of them, they have a bad year and they don't get their colonies. Colonies obviously suffer from that. So I see that a lot. The concentration is more on each hive. They're worried about this queen. I got to keep this queen alive. I got it from Uncle Sam. So they'll baby each colony more than worrying about the overall health and wealth of the whole yard. Some beekeepers, they paint their hives. They're cute. They put friendly little bees and flowers on them, which is it's fun to see that. I like that. They'll name their queens, but there's more attention to individual colonies, I guess is what I'm trying to say, than the whole yard or the expense involved. They keep, how they keep their records varies. A lot of beekeepers, even the, sideliners, all their notes are on the top of the hive. So they have to start all over again the next year. They don't have records because they're just writing on top of the hives. So that doesn't work in a commercial beekeeping world, but it works for us. They tend to be more connected to social media than they are to branded, vetted, universities, USDA websites. Some of them for long-term, well-known sources or vetted sources. Their knowledge and management of varroa mites varies from no treatment to over-treatment. Some people OD their hives on varroa mite treatment, and some don't treat at all. Some purposely don't treat because they don't believe in it, and some just don't get to it till October, and then it's usually too late. So there's a wide variety, a wide variance of maintenance of colonies for our. And I'm a hobby beekeeper too, so I fall in here somewhere. And they may not make money the first 5 years. It takes at least 3 years to really understand to keep your bees alive. At least 3 years. After that, you start to sing, your bees are surviving, I'm doing okay, and then they become a self-proclaimed experts. And they're the ones that teach the beginning beekeeping process. So there's a problem there. So beekeepers are creative. I love seeing the different ways that people keep bees. So I'm afraid to touch this thing. This upper left one, this is how he feeds his bees. It's a big trash barrel. It's full of straw, and he just pours sugar syrup in there. And it's just a massive frenzy of bees. He does lose quite a few colonies, but he says overall that his bees are healthier because he feeds them. That swarm box is it's above a deer stand. It's way high up there. So how are you going to take that thing down without, they're heavy when they're full of bees. This guy here has his barrel hive. Don't know who that is. That guy, I see a lot of homemade stands. This guy in the upper right, he made all those individual stands. Just an incredible amount of work. This bottom picture here, those are drone frames. He puts them in his chicken house. So as soon as those drone frames are full of capped drone brood, he puts them in his chicken house for the chickens to clean out. And then this guy here has vertical hives. It's kind of like a bookcase where you pull the frames out. They're twice as deep as a typical frame and taller. Unfortunately, he could not keep them alive from year to year, so I think he's going to try something else. So they're creative. Lots of different kinds of varieties, all kind of gadgets for feeding the bees, treating bees. I see people putting granules of insecticide on the outside of the hive to keep the ants from getting in, all kinds of stuff. Kirk Stoller is one of our commercial beekeepers. He invented this hive lifter. You just slide this, it's sort of like the forklift, but it's portable. You slide this thing in, you pick it up, and it just picks the whole hive up. So it saves a lot on your back. Different ways of raising nukes and swarm traps and different types of product lures. So there's no end to it. Unfortunately, sometimes they're too creative, and they do some things that are dangerous, mainly for people, especially for the bees. So this upper right-hand picture, that's a Swiffer. So sometimes Swiffer strips work great to keep the small hive beetles under control, but some colonies hate Swiffer strips, and they just fuzz them up into a ball. Now the other picture next to it, those are Formic Pro strips on top of a queen excluder on top of the honey soup. So I don't know how much good those did. The bottom left, those are roach baits, and you never ever put roach bait or ant bait traps in a beehive. It's not labeled, it's not legal, it's extremely dangerous for your bees. And I see that all the time. This guy, he had more dead colonies than live, and he finally just gave up. But yeah, honeybees are amazingly versatile. I find colonies of bees are in this horrible old rotten decrepit equipment, and I don't know how they survive, but they do. So they can survive over treatment, they can survive under treatment. They're just amazingly tough, but we can't always take that for granted. You can't just, we beekeepers, we can't just, look at a hive and know what's wrong with them. We have to open the hive, no matter what the weather is, look at the hive, look at the brood, and find out what's going on with them. So it takes a lot more effort. You have to know a lot more than your typical animal producer. Small hive beetles, yeah, all kinds of problems with that. So yeah, I'm just trying to say because we don't know, and there's still a lot we don't know about beekeeping and bee management. There's a lot of experimenting that goes on. We see that a lot. Always a huge potential for disease. And I'm not picking on the names that are on these frames, but you open a hive box and there's beekeepers are always sharing equipment. They're sharing frames of brood. You're buying a new box. And so there's that potential, not from those beekeepers necessarily, just the point that there's 4 different companies. This is the very top box that I looked at. So yeah, they're sharing equipment. You always want to look for that clean certificate. If you're buying from another state or buying within Ohio, always check for that. Make sure that those colonies or that hive has been inspected. Beekeepers don't always report sick bees. They're embarrassed because their bees are sick or they don't know what's wrong with them. So they'll just let them sit, see if it goes away by themselves. They don't report it to me or whoever their inspector is. And it just sits there. So there's a potential for, if it is a disease, for it to spread. They don't know that they're sick. American foulbrood kind of disappeared. Not disappeared, but it kind of went under the radar for quite a while. Now it's starting to build back up. People don't know what it is. A lot of inspectors don't recognize it. I don't always recognize it. So beekeepers, they don't know that they have it. So they just let it sit there, and then the bees are robbed from it to get back to their colony. It just keeps getting worse. This guy in the lower right-hand corner, obvious American foulbrood, he put fresh Apivar strips in. So he didn't even look. He just stuck those Apivar strips in his hives. So it just happens. They may rely on old treatments or old stories or wives' tales instead of doing what needs to be done to control it. So obtaining veterinary feed directives. I know Tracy's going to talk about this wherever you are. It's still kind of bumpy. Trying to find a veterinarian that will write you a VFD. So it's supposed to come out to the yard to identify it. Costs money, and it's kind of embarrassing. Beekeepers think that something wrong with them if their bees have a contagious disease, so they kind of want to hide it. It's hard to find a knowledgeable vet who will work with you. And you can order antibiotics online. We have beekeepers who have 50-year supply of antibiotic that they're selling to their beekeeper buddy, or their veterinarian lives down the street, just writes them a prescription without even looking at their bees. So lots of ways of getting antibiotics if the beekeeper wants to treat their colonies. We still have resistance. We just had one last week, completely resistant to terramycin and slightly resistant to Tylenol, because he's been treating all along. 30 years of bottom line is we still don't have control of varroa mite. We still have people who don't know how to control varroa mite. They don't know what they have varroa mite. So off-label products, you can go to the Bee Informed website, and they'll show you that if you monitor your mites, you're going to have better control. So the blue is winter. Winter mortality. So the blue, if you monitor your colonies and you have less winter mortality. The bottom line was black. If they didn't monitor, they had higher winter mortality. So we need to do something. We all need to work together to try to control our mites. So the bottom line is we need to continue to teach. I work with OSU, their veterinary college. We have veterinarian students who will work with us and Dr. Reed to learn about beekeeping. They spend a day with me out in the field. Education is the bottom line. Schools need to have a curriculum for kids. We need to saturate the social media with the right information, so they're not just listening to these third-year beekeepers. So about 115 to 125,000 beekeepers are supposed to be in the United States, supposedly. Only about 10% of them subscribe to Beekeeping Magazine. But look at social media; it's everywhere. So read your bee culture, read ABJ, but encourage other people to read too. So yeah, we just need to keep pushing and encourage people. Try to encourage people to learn about beekeeping and be successful at it. Yeah, the very, very bottom line is, we have, our cattle industry, worth a lot of money. We need our beekeeping. We wouldn't have any of that if it wasn't for honeybees. So healthy goes, healthy, vigorous bees, and that's it.